Reported sightings went from less than 5,000 in 1980 to about 10,000 in 1990. But between 1990 and 2000, sightings rose by nearly 30,000. In those 10 years, more than 45,000 sightings were recorded, a record. And it appears the spike in UFO sightings was not an anomaly, but a trend. In an 8-year period from 2002 to 2009, more than 36,000 UFOs were reported. Since then, more than 11,000 more UFOs were reported, with more than 47,000 being cataloged since 2010. Statistician and PhD candidate Sam Montfort brought this information to light. With the collection of data from the reporting center, Montfort found that individuals are far more likely to spot a UFO in the US than anywhere else in the world. He reports that on average, there are 2,500 sightings reported per 10 million people. That's 300 times higher than the global median. Northwestern and northeastern states have filed the most reports citing per capita. Perhaps with 7 new known planets in the universe, we could experience even more close encounters in the future. For Fox News, I'm Rob Demetrius.
Celestial Piper here of Soldier of the Watch. Be sure to like my video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell so that you'll be notified for new videos.
But I've often wondered, what if all of us in the world discovered that we were threatened by a power from outer space, from another planet? Wouldn't we all of a sudden find that we didn't have any differences between us at all? We were all human beings, citizens of the world, and wouldn't we come together to fight that particular threat? Well, I don't suppose we can wait for some alien race to come down and threaten us, but I think that between us, we can bring about that realization.
In the 1970s and the 1980s, Monast, or Serge Monast, was a journalist, poet, and essayist. He was an active member of the Social Credit Party of Canada. According to Wikipedia, in the early 1990s, he started writing on the theme of the New World Order and conspiracies hatched by secret societies, being particularly inspired by the works of William Guy Carr. Serge Monast founded the International Free Press Agency, where he published most of his work on these themes, achieving some prominence with an interview on esotericist and ufologist Richard Glenn's TV show, Esoterisme Experimental, in which he repeatedly warned his audience about the dangers of world government. He was interviewed by Glenn a number of times, up to 1996. In 1994, he published Project Bluebeam, NASA, in which he detailed his claim that NASA, with the help of the United Nations, was attempting to implement a New Age religion with the Antichrist at its head and start a new world order via a technologically simulated second coming of Christ. He also gave talks on this topic. Other conspiracy theorists have noted the similarity of Project Bluebeam to the plots of Gene Roddenberry's unreleased 1975 Star Trek movie Treatment the God Thing and the 1991 Star Trek The Next Generation episode Devil's Due. In 1995, he published his most detailed work, Les Protocoles de Toronto 6.6.6, modeled upon the protocols of the Elders of Zion, wherein he said a Masonic group called 6.6.6 had for 20 years been gathering the world's powerful to establish the New World Order and control the minds of individuals. I find this really interesting since the 6.6.6 reminds me of something. Doesn't it remind you of something? I think it's the number of the beast. So when I looked this up in Wikipedia, the mark of the beast is a term that we all know as believers in the book of Revelation of the New Testament that is associated with the beast of Revelation in chapter 13. So that sounds like the beast system to me. Revelation 13:18. The number of the beast is described. Several translations have been interpreted for the meaning of the phrase, "Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast," where the peculiar Greek word, which I'm probably going to pronounce this terribly, sephisato, is used. Possible translations include to count, to reckon, and also to vote or to decide. So back to Serge Monast. By 1995 and 1996, Monast said he was being hunted by the police and the authorities for involvement in networks of prohibited information. He had homeschooled his 2 children, who were then taken away and made wards of the state in September 1996 so that they would receive a public education. He died of a heart attack in his home in December 1996 at age 51, the day after being arrested and spending a night in jail. His followers claim his death was suspicious, I can't imagine why, suggesting he was assassinated by psychotronic weapons to keep from continuing his investigations, and that Jerry Fletcher, the Mel Gibson character in the 1997 film Conspiracy Theory, was modeled on him. Wow.
July 8, 1979, all the fathers of Nobel Prize winners were rounded up by United Nations military units, all right? And actually forced at gunpoint to give semen samples in little plastic jars, which are now stored below Rockefeller Center underneath the ice skating rink. Wouldn't want to be there for the thaw. Ugh. I mean, it's disgusting. You know what they put in the water, don't you? Fluoride. Yeah, fluoride. On the pretext that it strengthens your teeth. That's ridiculous. You know what this stuff does to you? It actually weakens your will. Takes away the capacity for free and creative thought and makes you a slave to the state. So you ever wonder about all these militia groups, survivalist-type kooks from the right-wing side? They say that they're defending the country from the UN troops. These guys are yelling so loud, my theory is, and this is a conspiracy, pal, that they are the UN troops and that they're in place. The infrastructure's ready, it's just a fait accompli. When the time comes, they'll just take over and we'll all be toast. Oswald, yeah, Oswald, that's what I said, Oswald. He said, I'm just a patsy, and that means that he didn't do it, right? Tell you the one about Arm & Hammer goes to the doctor, and the doctor said, hey, Armin, you've only got 3 minutes to live. And he says, oh my God, that's terrible news. Isn't there anything you can do for me, Doc? 3 minutes. And the doctor says, well, Armin, I can boil you an egg. I guess not. All right. Did you ever see those advertisements like, got milk? Hey, open up. Open it up. What's going on in there? Open it up. Son of a bitch. Eat beef? I mean, that's kind of like saying smoke cigarettes or drive cars. I mean, it's real generic. It's like this guy looks at me and he says to me, you think you're living in a free country? You think this is a democracy? Of course it's not. Websites, newsletters, self-published manifestos, they think we're kooks. I mean, George Bush knew what he was saying when he said New World Order. Remember those 3 little words, New World Order? Well, he was a 33rd degree Mason, you know, and as ex-director of the CIA. He knew that saying that would send conspiratologists everywhere spinning their wheels, and they destroy their own credibility. Hey, don't get me wrong, sister. I'm sure your heart's in the right place, okay? But, you know, somebody's got to lift the scab, the festering scab that is the Vatican. The chip for identification so they can track down an animal anywhere he's at, you'll insert it under the dog's skin, and it's kind of like an identification thing. I mean, it's only a small, logical step till they start putting it in us and our children. And then, before we know it, my God, they'll probably come with the pretext.
So, copies of his works still circulate on the internet and have influenced such later conspiracy theorists as American evangelical preacher Tex Morris. Some of his later works have been reissued by French publisher and conspiracy theorist Jacques Delacroix, along with other writing on the themes of Monast's conspiracy-related work. So, we're talking about Project Bluebeam today. Yeah, you really did see that. That was a pretty awesome hologram, wasn't it? And just to think that they can do that in our sky. Wait till you hear what I have to say. So, Project Bluebeam, is it a conspiracy theory? Or is it for real? Well, according to Wikipedia, they say it's a conspiracy theory that claims that NASA is attempting to implement a New Age religion with the Antichrist at its head and start a new world order via a technologically simulated second coming. The allegations were presented in 1994 by Quebecois journalist and conspiracy theorist Serge, as stated in the beginning, and later published in his book, Project Bluebeam. Proponents of the theory allege that Monast and another unnamed journalist, who both died of heart attacks in 1996, and that's not weird, anyway, were in fact assassinated. Oh no, that would never happen. And that the Canadian government kidnapped Monast's daughter in an effort to dissuade him from investigating Project Bluebeam. The project was apparently supposed to be implemented in 1983, but it didn't happen. It was then set up for implementation in 1995 and then 1996. Monast thought Project Bluebeam would be brought to fruition by the year 2000. Really, definitely, for sure. But we also know that the things that we see in the world right now that were supposed conspiracy theories, there's some truth to a lot of what is considered conspiracy theory. We also know that the elite or the cabal, they could have plans all they want. They could have decided that it was going to be the year 2000, but then our wonderful Lord and Savior Jesus could have wrecked those plans, you know? So who's to say that it wasn't actually going to happen in 2000? But it just didn't go the way they had planned. Look, we know that if Hillary Clinton had gotten into office instead of President Trump, we probably would be definitely seeing a lot of fruition to all the plans that they've had for their agenda. You know, like Agenda 21. And now we got Agenda 30. Gee, why? Because they probably had to push out their plans. Just because they say it's going to happen a certain year doesn't mean it's going to happen a certain year. Because I'll tell you what, God's got people praying. He's got people on their hands and knees praying. And prayer's powerful. That's our sword. So their plans can get thwarted. And I say, ha, to that. Jesus is much greater than their stupid plans. Their evil plans. Do I get a name out? So, New World Order. Gee, where have we heard that term before? I know I've heard it somewhere. Oh yeah, Daddy Bush. In fact, Didn't Daddy Bush just pass away not that long ago? I think there was a big, huge funeral for him. He's like 94 years old. Yeah, he did many a speech on the whole New World Order. And to think that Serge and a friend of his, or a co-worker of his, died of heart attacks? That's not weird, is it?
This is an historic moment. We have in this past year made great progress in ending the long era of conflict and Cold War. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
So how about Daddy Bush right there? Did that weird you out? And we will be successful. Nah, he's not evil at all. Not at all. We wouldn't have anybody evil as president or in the government. Oh no, that would be treasonous if they were to come against the people. That would never happen. Oh, I can't believe it. Does that sound like some people you know? I know it does to me.
Perfect.
Imagine this. Earthquakes in diverse, precise locations happening across the planet. And then we look up into the sky, and what we see is what seems to be an alien invasion. And then, because we are attacked by this outside invasion, the world joins together to come up against these aliens. But then all of a sudden, we see our Messiah come to save us from different faiths and religion and cultures, and appears in the sky. He or she speaks to us in all the different language of the world and different culture. And then these messiahs merge with each other and they become one. This false messiah, or Antichrist, as those of us would recognize who believe in the Christian Bible, goes on to tell you that after these earthquakes that happened in diverse places, they found archaeological evidence that we were created by an alien race outside of our galaxy, and that it was he, the Antichrist, that created us. Of course, the Antichrist will not be calling himself the Antichrist. He will be calling himself the Messiah. He would be calling himself God. People will get abducted all of a sudden in mass quantities, and everybody will be told that they were raptured. And really, they were just taken off to Never Never Land, wherever that may be. We, the people of Earth, will come together united under a one world government, a one world religion, and we will be told that everything we know about our religion and our faith is all a lie. What if I told you even the very elect, the learned, would be deceived? And that we will ask for this. We will want this false unity in the beast system. Would you believe that many will be deceived? Even the very elect. The Bible tells us so. As seen in the scripture above. Prior to Serge's death, the Canadian government abducted his daughter in an attempt to dissuade him from pursuing his research in Project Bluebeam. What is Project Bluebeam? NASA's Bluebeam project has 4 different steps in order to implement the New Age religion with the Antichrist at its head. Do not forget that the New Age religion is the very foundation for the New World Government, without which religion the dictatorship of the New World Order is completely impossible. Did you catch that? Let me see it again. Without a universal belief in the New Age religion, the success of the New World Order will be absolutely impossible. That is why this project is so important to them. That has been so well hidden until now. So the first step, and I'm only going to go over 2 steps in this video, by the way, because there's so much information on Project Bluebeam that I would do it a disservice to everything that Serge Monast and the other Canadian journalists had been reporting on. So step 1 concerns the breakdown of all archaeological knowledge. They will use artificially made earthquakes at certain precise locations on the planet where supposedly new discoveries will finally explain to all people the error of all fundamental religions and doctrines. It will, of course, be false information, and it will be used to make all nations believe that their religions or doctrines or faith been misunderstood and or misinterpreted. That makes me think of the movie War of the Worlds, specifically the new one, because I don't remember watching the old one. And if you didn't know this, it was based on an actual show that was on a radio that caused people to go into panic because they thought it was a real alien invasion. Could you imagine? Anyway, in the movie that had Tom Cruise in it, when we started to become under an invasion, they were breaking up the ground where their, I guess you could call them, their pods or spaceships or whatever it is that they controlled, was buried in the earth. That just makes me really interested in what they are saying here about having things, or the earthquakes, done in precise locations, because they're going to probably, or they already have, buried stuff that they can use for this agenda. The second step, or step 2, is a big one. I mean, there's so much information on this. This involves a gigantic space show with 3-dimensional optical holograms and sounds, laser projection of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to their predominating regional, national religious faith. This new God's voice will speak in all languages from every culture. Before I go on with that, do you remember the whale in that video clip I showed you? You could hear the splashing, the force of the whale coming up through the water, a holographic image of water. And it was absolutely magnificent. I mean, the detail, it looked real coming out of that gymnasium floor. So imagine this in the sky. And not only what we see visually, but what we hear. It's going to be like in the book of Acts, when the Holy Spirit came over them and they started speaking in all sorts of tongues, all different languages. Everybody was able to hear their own language, the gospel in their own language. So imagine the counterfeit that Satan's going to do using this. Continue on. Several various secret services research done in the last 25 years can help us to understand this more. So there is a lot of various secret service research. The Soviets perfected an advanced computer for this God's voice and the many languages that it has. It's completely detailed with human culture and meanings. They can induce suicidal thoughts if the person does not comply with the New World Order. Honestly, with these so-called suicides of people who happen to report things that the elite didn't want them reporting, it makes me think that they're already testing this technology that they have.
Perfect.
And I'm sure you're not surprised either. So imagine that. People are going to get like these suicidal thoughts in their head, and they can just get rid of them without even having to touch them. That's just sickening. There are two aspects of step 2. First one is the space show, and then the second one is abductions or a false rapture. How do they project in the sky? You're not going to be surprised when I tell you this. By satellites projected on a sodium layer in the sky 60 miles above the Earth. Can anybody say chemtrails? Well, how about that? The project has perfected the ability for some device to lift up an enormous amount of people, as in a rapture, and whisked the entire group into a never land. Foisted upon an unsuspecting world to hook them into the lie. Even the very elect will be deceived. Tests of this device, seen in abductions of humans by those mysterious little alien greys who snatch people from their beds through windows and walls, waiting motherships. The calculated resistance to the universal religion and the new Messiah and the ensuing holy wars will result in the loss of human life on a scale never imagined before in human history. Well, guys, it was real fun hanging out with you. I hope you enjoyed the video. When I started this whole project with this video, I couldn't believe the amount of information there was on the Project Bluebeam. So I'm probably going to do a part 2 on this video because I only got 2 out of the 4 steps in this video without it being a completely super long video. So until we meet next time, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you'll be notified for more videos. Love you guys. Bye now.